All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are opening up the playbook used by the absolute pros, the champions who consistently win at the highest levels of investing. We're going to break down the actual strategies that separate the average investor from the world-class performers. So, let's kick things off with a huge question. There's actually a world championship of trading. Think of it like the World Series of poker for the stock market. Everyone starts with the same amount of cash and they see who comes out on top. So, what do you think the secret is to winning that whole thing? Most of us, our first thought is it's got to be about finding that one in a million stock, right? Hitting that massive home run. Well, here's the twist. The big secret that's going to underpin everything we talk about today. It is not about getting lucky. It's not about being the best guesser. The sources are crystal clear on this. The folks who win year after year, they're not daredevils. They're elite risk managers. They are absolute masters of defense. And that is the core secret we're going to unpack. So, to break it all down, here's our game plan for today. This is our championship playbook. We'll start with that champion's secret, then build out the four-pillar playbook. We're going to cover scouting the playing field, generating consistent cash flow, the art of defense, and finally, building your financial dynasty. Sound good? Let's jump in.
All right, let's get into it. Every great champion, doesn't matter the sport, has a core strategy. It's their foundation. Well, for investing, it's the same thing, and it's built on four absolutely critical pillars. If you get these right, you've basically built a fortress that can handle whatever the market decides to throw at you.
So this slide right here, this is basically our roadmap for the whole explainer. It all starts with fundamental analysis. That's knowing the company's health. Then you've got technical analysis. That's understanding the market's mood. After that, we get into cash flow, which is how you earn income no matter what's happening. And last, but honestly the most important, is risk management. That's how you protect your money. We're going to tackle each one of these piece by piece. First up, scouting the playing field. This covers our first two pillars, fundamentals and technicals. And I really want you to stick with this scouting analogy. Think about it. A championship team would never just run out onto the field without doing their homework, right? They study their opponent's stats, their strengths, their weaknesses. They watch hours of game tape. That's exactly what we're doing here. So, fundamental analysis. That's the stats. This is pure Warren Buffett 101. The idea is simple. You're not just buying a ticker symbol. You're buying a tiny piece of an actual business. And you wouldn't buy a whole coffee shop without looking at its books, would you? Of course not. So why would you buy a piece of a company without understanding its financial health? And Buffett's discipline here is just legendary. He has these four non-negotiable rules. 1, the company needs great leaders. 2, it needs long-term prospects, what he famously calls a moat, like Coca-Cola's brand name. That's a moat. It protects the business. 3, he has to be able to actually understand how the business makes money. And 4, and this is huge, he has to be able to buy it for less than it's really worth. If a company doesn't check all 4 of those boxes, he just walks away, period. And that really is the name of the game. It all comes down to what the stock is actually worth. You could find the best company on the planet, but if you pay too much for it, it's a bad investment. Simple as that. The real secret is figuring out what it's worth and then waiting with the patience to buy it for a discount. Overpaying is like starting a race 100 yards behind the starting line. Okay, so if fundamentals tell you what company to buy, technicals are all about when to buy it. This is the game tape we talked about. You're studying the behavior of the market itself. All that fear and greed, it shows up in the charts. It helps you see the momentum, the trends, and when you combine a great company with a smart entry point, man, that is a powerful 1-2 punch. Okay, scouting's done. You know the company, you've studied the charts, now it's time to go on offense. And this is a huge differentiator. Champions don't just buy and hope. That's not a strategy. They have an active playbook designed to make money consistently. And to do that, you have to understand the difference between a capital gain and cash flow. A capital gain is just profit from a sale. It's awesome, but you can't control it. You're at the mercy of the market. Cash flow, though, that's different. That's income you create from your assets. It's like being a landlord and collecting rent. That is something you can control, and that gives you power no matter which way the market is heading. So how do we do that? Well, a major tool in the playbook is something called options. And look, I know that word can sound complicated, but let's break it down. An option is basically just financial insurance. That's it. Now with insurance, you can be the person who buys a policy, or you can be the insurance company that sells the policy and collects the cash, right? That cash is called a premium. Well, champions learn how to act like the insurance company.
Okay, so let's walk through a really cool strategy for this called the wealth wheel. Let's say there's a stock you love, but it's trading at 105 bucks a share. You'd rather buy it at 100. So for step 1, you sell what's called a cash covered put. That's just a fancy way of saying you make a promise to buy the stock at 100 if it drops, and someone pays you cash, a premium, just for making that promise. Now, if the stock never drops, you just keep the cash, free money. But if it does drop to 100, you move to step 2. You buy the stock like you promised. But think about it. You got paid to wait, so you really got it at a discount. So now you own this great company for a great price. What next? Step 3. You sell a covered call. Now you're promising to sell your stock if the price goes up to, say, 110. And guess what? You get paid another premium for that promise. If it gets assigned, you sell for a profit, and if not, you just keep the cash. Then you just repeat the cycle. You can see how this becomes a cash flow machine, right?
All right, so we've covered scouting the field and running the offense. But now we're at what is, without a doubt, the single most important part of the entire playbook. This is what separates the winners from everyone else. We're talking about defense. We're talking about risk management. Just look at that number on the screen, -50%. It looks bad, but the math behind it is just brutal. If you lose 50% of your money, a 50% gain doesn't get you back to even, not even close. You need a 100% gain. You have to literally double your money just to get back to where you started. And that is why defense wins championships. And this brings us right back to where we started, the World Championship of Trading. The guys that win aren't just getting lucky. They're not making wild bets. The sources are so clear on this. These guys manage risk. They are obsessed with it because they absolutely know that avoiding that one catastrophic loss is the secret to winning the whole game. So what does good defense actually look like? Well, here are the core strategies. Diversification is the classic don't put all your eggs in one basket. Position sizing is huge. It's about deciding how much you're willing to risk on any single idea. Maybe it's just 1 or 2% of your total capital. That way, no single loss can ever wipe you out. Then there's having a plan for every outcome, up, down, or sideways. This takes the emotion out of it. And finally, keeping a trading journal. This is like your own personal game tape, so you can learn from your wins and your losses.
Okay, so winning one championship is amazing, but we're talking about building a dynasty, right? Something that lasts. And that requires a shift in mindset. You have to think bigger than just one trade. You need to start thinking like you're building a business, a financial dynasty.
And what's really fascinating is that the pros don't do it alone. They build a team around them. They get a mentor, someone who's already been where they want to go. They get a great accountant who specializes in this stuff to help them keep more of their profits from the tax man. They get an attorney to make sure they're protected. They act like the CEO of their own financial life, not a one-person show trying to do everything. And you've got to remember, this is a journey. The sources actually map it out. A lot of people are in phase 0. Ignorance. They just have a 401k and kind of hope for the best. Just by being here, you're in phase 1, awareness. You're learning the playbook. The next level is proficiency, where you really start to master these skills. And the final goal is mastery, where it all becomes second nature. The key is just knowing where you are and what you need to do to get to that next phase. And maybe the biggest takeaway of all is that this playbook, it's not something you just read once and you're done. It's a living document. The markets are always changing. Your goals are going to change. So the pros are constantly reviewing their plan, tweaking it, seeing what's working. It's a process of constant improvement, of always learning.
So there you have it. We've gone through the whole playbook, the secret of the champions, the 4 pillars, the scouting, the offense, the defense, everything you need to build a dynasty. The blueprint is written. The only question left is, what's your first move?